I'm Kathy Olligus from Dee's, and today we're in the hat department. We're going to show you how to create or trim your own derby hat. This is part of a series of videos that we're creating to show you how to do different parts of the hat. In this particular video, we're going to show you how to manipulate by curling and cutting and doing different things to feathers to give these interesting looks that you see on our hats. What I'm going to do in this segment is show you how you can take feathers and manipulate them by cutting or shaping or curling to get a different look from your feathers, and then eventually how to add them into the hat. Most of your feathers will come relatively straight, like this one is. And that is sometimes kind of hard to place in a hat because it's either going to stick straight up or straight back, and it's a little hard to manipulate and add to the hat. So what we're going to do is show you how you can curl your feather like this one is here. And there's two ways to do that. One, you take your fingernail, and this is the spine or the quill of the feather, runs down the center, and we're going to basically break that spine on one side so that the feather curls in that direction. And the way that we do this is we're basically going to run our fingers down, our fingernail in between our fingers, and break that spine. And I'll show you. We'll run down one time. Sometimes you have to do it more than once. And you do it once and you'll see a little bit of a curl. So that might be fine. That might be exactly what you want. If you want it to curl some more, you can go back into the area where you want it to be more of a curve and just run your fingernail down there again, and you can see where you get a little bit more of a curve. So that's one way that you can manipulate your feather. Now if you want your feathers to curl, we showed how to curl by breaking the spine, but you can also use a curling iron to curl your feathers. You can get a lot more of a curlicue effect. You grab your feather right at the edge, or the tip of your feather, twirl your curling iron just like as you were curling your hair. You might just want to do the tip, or you might want to go all the way down. Give it a second to curl, and you can see it gives a little bit more of a curlicue. If you want it to be a little bit more than that, let me show you the look that you can get. And I'm going to curl a little bit further this time. Put it on hot. Okay, so you're starting to get this look. This is kind of interesting to add to a hat. And of course you probably wouldn't just want one of those, you would probably want 2 or 3 of those. But do one at a time. You can curl one a little bit more, one a little bit less, and get this look. These feathers are called Koch Feathers. They're actually a rooster feather. It starts like this, ends up like this. You can buy these already stripped, so in other words all the feathers at the bottom already stripped off, or you can make your own, because sometimes you can find the feathers like this, the color you need, and you can strip your own feathers. The way that you do that is just come down the distance that you want, take your fingernail, and you're just going to grab a hold of the feathers and pull them off. Go all the way down, and then turn the feather over, go up to the same place, and strip those off. Takes a little while, but it's a nice effect in the hat design. So now you have a nice skinny little feather, so when you put that in the design and you're wearing your hat, you get this nice movement going on when you're outside in the weather, the downs. You can also take that same feather, the Koch feather, and you can manipulate by cutting the feather. You of course don't want to cut the quill or the spine that runs down the middle of it, but you can cut this in a couple of different ways. You can simply put notches up to the spine. I'm just cutting, you can measure if you want. I don't, I just cut maybe a ½ an inch into the spine. And then after you cut, if you run your fingers around there, you will remove the feather that you cut, and then you go back to the other side. Again, cut into the spine in the same place, directly across from where you cut the last time. Run your fingers along the feather and remove the feather, and you have a nice shaped feather like that. If you want to curve a little bit more, you can grab the feather, run your fingernail across it, and get a little bit more curve to the feather. Most of the time it'll curve by itself. These are nice little feathers. These are called Fiats. They come usually wrapped with a wire, and you could just stick those directly into your hat that way, but we like to, ideally you should take them apart and add your feathers, a couple feathers at a time. These are really nice to add just like this, but if you wanted to, if you look at this hat right here, these are actually the same feathers that look like little, to me they look like little fireworks or barbed wire. It's the same feather, only what you do with that is you tie a knot in the feather. You have to be very careful because when you tie your knot, sometimes your feather will break. So you can see where you tie a knot, it becomes this little sparkler look. And that's in the Fiats. These are nice feathers to add to a hat. These are your ostrich feathers. They give, again, a lot of movement if you add those into your hat design. But if that's just a little bit too much for you, you know, don't quite like the look of all that feather, you can take the ostrich feather and trim them down just by cutting along the feather. Cutting off some of your feather, and you create this look. And that's the ostrich.
These are Hackle Feathers, and these are great for filling in spaces. So what I like to do is cut the row, just cut a little section off, and I tend to want to twist them around circular so they have a little more fullness to them. Going to take just a little bit of glue, go in, roll them around so that you can spread them out. Doesn't take too much glue. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here, and I'm going to go in my hat and just tuck them in, and it just helps to fill in some of the mechanics of when you're putting your hat together. And I have some nice long rhea feathers, and I'm going to snip this just a little bit and kind of position where I'm going to want them to go. And what you're going to do is just put a little bit of glue and go back in and slide it down in there. And you still have some adjustment time. If you've put it in and you want it to go a little bit different direction, you still have a little bit of time to move them. Put just a little bit of glue and go back in here and tuck it in, push it down in there, hold it for just a few seconds, and it will set up for you. Now I've got a few of these Koch feathers, and they'll come on a little band like this, but I like to take mine out and put them in separately so you can kind of control where you're placing them. Same thing with these. You just want to put a little glue on the end, go in, just tuck them down in there, and you still have time to kind of adjust them, and you can just place these wherever you want just to kind of fill in. And these are great feathers because they give you some movement on your hat when you're walking. And there you go.